Hey everybody, this is D Hunter, bringing another action figure review. Today, we're going to be looking at the McFarlane DC Multiverse Injustice 2 Gorilla Grodd action figure. This is Gorilla Grodd for the video game Injustice 2. He's in his gold armor. There's a platinum chase variant in silver armor. Hoping to find that. So let's go ahead and check out the packaging here. As you can see, 22 moving parts, McFarlane toys, ages 12 plus. DC Multiverse Gorilla Grodd Injustice 2. Here he's in the package. Doesn't look like he comes with any traditional accessories, just the display stand, the collector's card, and then a big badass armored gorilla. One side of the package, Gorilla Grodd from Injustice 2. Other side simply says Gorilla Grodd. At the bottom, there's a bunch of credits and a barcode, in case that helps anybody. And then on the back, here's the figure posed up, and here's a bunch of other McFarlane DC Multiverse figures you should check out. So I got this figure from Target, went to one store, they didn't have any. I asked the clerk, he pulled this guy out to the back. Then I went to another Target, and they had 3 of them on the shelf. Really hoping to find the silver armored version. So no further ado, let's open him up. Alright, now that we got this figure out of the package, here he is with all his accessories laid out. He doesn't come with any traditional accessories, but he does come with a display stand and a collector's card. But before we take a look at those accessories, let's take a look at the actual figure. So this is Gorilla Grodd from Injustice 2, and he's in his armored look. Starting with his head, it looks fantastic. Look at that open mouth, he's screaming. You can see his fangs exposed. Even his tongue looks pretty good, I like that. His jaw is not hinged, a little disappointed there. His eyes are pretty menacing inside there. His armor looks good. It's made of a sort of softer material. Gold, a lot of sculpting details all over this thing. Going further down, his fur looks pretty good. It's all solid plastic, but just intricate detail all over this guy. Whoever sculpted this thing spent a lot of time doing this. See his shoulder armor, got a skull here, some spikes above that. Like I said, it's soft. It shouldn't really hinder the articulation much. I'm not sure what this thing on the front is. It looks kind of dumb. It's sort of hollow as he keeps stuff inside of there. Almost seems like it shouldn't even be on there. Going further down, he does have single jointed elbows, and that doesn't surprise me. Single jointed knees. McFarlane's always been very specific about keeping single jointed elbows on the bigger characters, and Grodd here is a pretty big oversized character. Ball joint here, ball joint here. Overall looking pretty good, pretty odd. He's got toe armor on one of his toes. Not sure what's up with that. Pretty impressed with the articulation for the most part. Looks like some kind of damage on his back here. Not sure what's up with that either. Overall, he looks great, but I really do wish they made a Grodd out of the armor as well. And just a little bit of a closer look at his face, his tongue, his teeth, his mouth, his eyes. It all looks really good. And I know you probably can't see it that good, but even the roof of his mouth, a lot of sculpting detail, all the different little ridges inside there. Nicely done, McFarlane. Now let's look at his accessories, and let's start with the boring stuff. Here's his display stand here. Typical McFarlane stand. Black perfect circle. It says DC at the bottom. It's got one peg for the peg holes on his feet. Very thin. Very basic. Here's his collector's card. This is an image of Gorilla Grodd, the figure, posed up in the jungle type area. This seems to be their new model moving forward, showing images of the figure instead of the source material. And frankly, I don't need to see the figure. He's sitting right in front of me. I'd much rather see an image from the game, Gorilla Grodd. So you can see the card here. He's standing in the background. Got some rocks, some grass behind him. And the other side here, it's a source material. Tells you it's from Injustice 2, 2017. And if anybody wants to read the description, go ahead and pause now. Like I said before, he doesn't come with any traditional accessories for him. But he does have this armor. And I've seen a lot of people online wondering, can the armor be removed? So as a whole, it is permanently attached. Yes, you could heat it up and take it off, but there's a lot of sculpting issues if you do that. I saw one person take the helmet off, and he had a big old peg on the back of his head where it sort of fits into the armor, and it looked awful. So unfortunately, it is not really an option to remove this armor. Now that we've taken a pretty good look at both the figure and his accessories, now let's check out his height. From bottom to the top of his helmet, he's sitting at about 7.6 inches tall, which can translate to about 19.5 centimeters. Now, he is bigger than your average McFarlane DC Multiverse figure, which is about 7.0 inches tall, but he's not quite big enough. A giant gorilla who's huge and massive like Gorilla Grodd probably should be 8.5 inches tall. He's still giant, massive, and bigger than your other figures, and I'm very happy to have him, but not quite as big as he should be. Now let's check out his articulation. Starting with his head here, of course, it can rotate from side to side, no problem. He can look up and down about that much. He can tilt his head from one side to the other, giving him a nice amount of personality. Shoulders are on a ball joint. It only goes out about this high. A little bit disappointing there. Up, down, around, all that good stuff. He's got a butterfly joint between his shoulder and chest here, just increasing the range of motion. He's got a bicep cut below that, and it's hidden pretty nicely behind his armor. His elbow here, it is single jointed, only goes in about this far, not even 90 degrees. It does have rotation at the top as well. His wrist here, it can rotate, and it's going to be hinged. It's very impressive the way it's hinged. It goes very far in. Got a ball joint in his torso here. It can rotate around. It can also go forward and back. It's got another ball joint in his waist. It can also rotate around, and it can go forward and back, but not too much, giving him a pretty good range of motion in his torso here. Legs, they go out about this far. Not a ball joint, but a similar type idea. You go forward about that far, not too much. Back, about that much. As far as rotation goes, there is a little bit in there. Single jointed knees, they do go back a full 90 degrees, and they have a rotation at the bottom part. Then his ankle here goes up and down. It can rotate around, can tilt and rock, and there's toe articulation. So for the most part, I would say articulation is pretty nice. These big deluxe figures are usually not very articulated, but this guy can get some good poses. I will say his shoulders are extremely disappointing, and his elbows as well. There's no way you're going to get this gorilla to beat on his chest. I was really hoping you'd be able to give him a crouching pose with his fists on the ground, kind of walking around like an ape or a gorilla. This is about the closest you're going to get to that. Sure, if you want him to have his hands on the ground, you can have him sort of crawling like this. So his articulation is nice, but it could be better. There are a couple of gorilla-specific poses I really want to do this guy into, but simply can't. Here's Gorilla Grodd in a jungle-type setting, a setting he's very comfortable in, being a gorilla. And Gorilla Grodd here is just beating on his chest. He's establishing dominance over everyone else here. No one is willing to accept his challenge. And Flash decides to accept the challenge against everyone's favorite telepath. Flash hits Grodd with a Speed Force punch. Of course, that's not enough to take down tough Grodd, so Flash decides to send a ball of Speed Force energy and hit Grodd with it. And that's a direct hit there, and it's enough to knock Grodd straight on his ass. But that's not enough to take out Grodd. Grodd gets right back up and starts pummeling the Flash. And too bad for Flash, Grodd has got the upper hand. Flash's only option is to get the hell out of there. And before Grodd even realized it, the Flash is gone and he's pummeling the ground. Now let's check him out, next to some other action figures, starting off with some other McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. Here's Grodd next to the Flash. These are the only two Injustice figures McFarlane has made so far, and this is wave 3 of their video game figures. Then, here he is next to the second wave of video game figures, Arkham Knight Batman and Arkham Origins Deathstroke. This is definitely my favorite of the 3 video game waves so far. And here he is next to the first wave of video game figures, Arkham Asylum Batman and Arkham Asylum Joker. And here are all the different video game figures McFarlane has made so far. We pretty much have waves 1 through 3 and a bunch of different variants. I don't know why, but they've chosen the video game figures to be the waves that get the chase variants. First we had the bronze figures, then the gold figures, and there's a silver chase variant of Gorilla Grodd. And I've also seen a white Hot Pursuit version of Flash, but I don't know if that's a chase version or if it's just going to be a future gold label release. If anyone has any information on the subject, please drop me a line in the comments below. Like I said before, I have seen the silver chase Grodd online, but I've not seen a silver or white Flash, so I don't know if he actually has a chase figure in this wave or not. I really do hope McFarlane continues with the video game figures, especially the Arkham figures. I would love for them to expand that line, and I would actually like for them to do the Injustice figures as well. But I do prefer Arkham, seeing as how I'm biased for the Batman figures. And here's Grodd next to the standard release of the Rebirth Flash. We've got both the regular head and the angry head. I would love it if they gave us a Rebirth style Gorilla Grodd. And here he is with my entire collection of McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. Including all the variants, I have a total of 71 figures and 2 vehicles, and I'm not even fully caught up. Still trying to find the Platinum Silver variant of Grodd and the basic version of the Batman Beyond figure. Now let's check them out next to some other Gorilla Grodd figures that I have. This is actually the only other Gorilla Grodd figure I own. This is the DC Direct Justice Gorilla Grodd. He is more so the style of Grodd that I prefer, unarmored from the comics, but he's even shorter than this McFarlane Grodd. Then, next to a NECA King Kong figure. This is actually the figure that I use for Gorilla Grodd most of the time. He's big, he's unarmored, he's well articulated. Doesn't really scream Grodd, but a giant gorilla in my DC world. What else is he going to be? These are the 3 different figures that I use as Gorilla Grodd in my action figure world. Between all the Grodds that I've seen, I think the Mattel Build-A-Figure DC Universe Classics Grodd is my favorite. I'd love to track one down one day. And while we're on the subject of gorillas, here he is next to a couple of NECA gorilla aliens. Now let's check him out next to all the different Injustice figures that I have. Here he is with all the McFarlane Injustice figures. They simply made the Flash and Gorilla Grodd so far. Then, next to a Storm Collectibles Bane. And here are all the Mattel Injustice figures that I have. Now, next to some SH Figure Arts Injustice figures. Here's my entire collection of Injustice figures. In the past, I pretty much stuck to the Batman and related figures, as my collection is predominantly Batman and related. But I'm all in for the McFarlane DC Multiverse line. Can't wait to see what else they're going to release from Injustice. Now let's check them out, next to some action figures from different various companies, to see how he fits in both scale and style-wise, in case you want to know which lines you can mix him with. Since he's a McFarlane figure, he's a 7-inch scale. I'll start off my comparisons with some of the larger action figure lines I collect and work my way smaller. Here he is, next to some of his McFarlane Toys brothers. In front of you are 5 different action figure lines, all from McFarlane Toys, all from different various video game properties, all 7-inch scale. Then, next to some more McFarlane Toys. And here he is, next to some DST or Diamond Select toys. Then, next to some DC Direct and DC Collectibles figures. And here, next to some NECA figures. Then, next to some Mattel wrestling figures. And here he is, next to some Mezco 112 the cloth soft goods action figures. Then, next to some Mattel DC Universe Classics and Multiverse figures. And here, with some Mafex figures. Then, with some Hasbro Marvel Legends. And here he is, next to some SH Figure Arts action figures. And finally, next to some Jazzwares Fortnite figures. So overall, he's a pretty cool figure. The detail's very nice, but I would have loved to have had a removable helmet. The articulation's good, but definitely suffers severely in the shoulder and elbow area. It's a very cool looking figure. I can see why McFarlane would pick it. It seems like something they would do. I think it's toyetic. But I really want to get a classic comic version of Grodd. This guy's also not as big as he should be. He should be another 3/4 of an inch taller. I get he's a $19 figure, great value. He has to fit the packaging. I do like the figure for what he is, but it could be so much more. If I were to rate this guy, I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. But if he was a little bit bigger and could move just a little more, he'd easily be an 8.5 out of 10. So this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say about the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I will talk to you guys real soon.